Ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome. This is Sunday FUNDAY. What a weekend in college football. Week 14 is officially in the books, and the dramatics were not in short supply. From College Station to Clemson, South Carolina, to Athens, Georgia, and everywhere in between. We are breaking it all down, reacting to all the action that took place on Friday and Saturday over this rivalry weekend. I am Chris Phillips. He is Dave Shumate. He is Cole Thompson. And again, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. And of course, as always, brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com. Use promo code SECU at sign up to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 or more lineup. And guys, don't forget, they've got more than just college football. College basketball is in full swing, NBA, NHL, NFL, everything in between, everything you can think of. Prize Picks has got it over at prizepicks.com using that promo code SECU to get your $50 bonus today. Guys, again, we are here reacting to Week 14 as the regular season comes to an end. And I say that with a single tear coming to my eye and running down my face. I'm going to hold it together today. But again, we got a lot to get into, a lot to break down. Again, I am Chris Phillips. He is Dave Shumate. He is Cole Thompson. Fellas, how are we doing on this beautiful Sunday morning?
Chris, I mean, better question than you, man. How's the station? Is the station on fire, as Tim Brewster used to say all the time there? Aggies that follow recruiting would know what that is. But no, I mean, good weekend. I think the SEC got a little help across the board there in trying to get 4 teams. South Carolina finished off the 9-3 campaign. I mean, for the most part, I mean, we got the Bear winning the regular season pick'em about one game. That honestly is amazing. We all would win a game,
and it's fitting he wins it because I picked.
Hey, before we get really rolling, here you go. Get one pick back from the regular season, week 1 through 14. You get one game back if you could have it. What game you?
I wouldn't pick Auburn to beat Alabama. It was literally that one.
Bear.
That's a pretty good one. I probably would have gone with Notre Dame over Texas A&M. I probably would have gone back
early in the year. Yeah.
Or I would have done probably Florida against Texas A&M. I would have taken A&M in that game. Probably that's the one.
I'd probably change my pick and went Carolina over A&M.
You wouldn't have gone Toledo over State, Dave?
No,
I'll say that was the boldest one that came through in the regular season.
You should have tailed me. I told you the Rockets were the move.
Dude, boys, you're right. I would say that was the biggest bold statement that actually came out to be true this year out of anybody, unless I'm missing it.
Boys, good morning. I'm very excited that we get to do one more Sunday FUNDAY. We're not going to stop doing it during the offseason and other things. We're going to work our way around that. But still, last month of the regular season, what a weekend. I mean, just what a weekend. For starters, it was Thanksgiving. So we all give thanks to, number one, the audience that tunes in every single week to join us every time that we get to come in front of the camera, talk about sports, things that we enjoy and we get paid to do. We also get to be thankful that college football lived up to the hype in Week 14. Rivalry weekend did not disappoint. From the Lone Star Showdown to the Palmetto Bowl to the Egg Bowl to what else do we have? The Shillelagh Pipe, the game, every single matchup somehow, some way made it interesting. We're all thankful that Fran Brown is going to shower today because of now it's possible for us to see another team get in from the SEC. And I think that most of all, we are thankful that the Lone Star Showdown is back because, my God, game, set, match. I don't care what Gunnar Helm says. I don't care what anybody says. That place, the atmosphere, 109 Screaming Ags last night is the pinnacle of why college football is at its finest. When they wake up and they deliver a performance to remember in terms of the crowd. The on-field play and the on-field execution, that's a whole different thing. But still, from that perspective, we got to give a lot of credit. I love this rivalry. I'm just so glad it's back on my television screen.
Yeah, Cole, that's a great place to start. That's where we'll go first. And, of course, that was the site of the SEC Unfiltered Tour. I'll debrief more, of course, as I do each and every single week on Monday. But, again, thank you to the great Aggies. Thank you to the great folks of College Station. I'm happy to say College Station was nothing like my fine friends in Austin told me it was going to be. I had an absolute blast. With all due respect to them, obviously love and I understand the rivalry. But, no, CSTAT was great. The people at College Station treated us beautifully. Shout out to the folks at Texags as well. Was great hanging with them. Got in the studio yesterday on the pregame show. That was a lot of fun. And then you mentioned the environment, Cole. It was a weekend to remember and a great way to close out the SEC Unfiltered Tour. And again, shout out to our friends at Prize Picks for making all of that possible. But again, this game specifically, 17-7 final, 13 years later, things haven't changed. Texas dominates Texas A&M in a game that, guys, I don't think being there in person, and you mentioned, Cole, atmosphere start of the game was electric. I mean, it was deafeningly loud. Love seeing Power, the entrance, all the pregame stuff. The traditions at A&M are really, really cool. Documented a lot of it, obviously, that we'll get on the vlog later this week. A&M is a really, really special place. When you don't score a single offensive point, it's hard to keep your crowd into it. I thought the story of the night, guys, was really simple. You know, we talked about line of scrimmage, which offensive line was going to hold up better. Texas just won the point of attack all night. They whipped A&M's ass up front. I thought the tone of the game, which I liked the decision early by Elko, first drive, let's try to set the tone. Let's take the momentum. If you get that and you go down and score, obviously that game looks a lot different. But I thought that was that defined the game. That set the tone of the game, that Texas put their foot down, made that stand. And, guys, I think they have one of the best defenses in college football. That front is for real. That front is elite. As much as we want to question A&M's play calling, execution, lack of personnel. Like, here's the thing, and I told people this walking out of the stadium last night. You lost to a team that might win the national championship. Like that, yeah. Texas has that caliber. They have a championship-level defense. Whatever you want to say about their offense and Quinn, who I thought played pretty well last night, all things considered. Whatever you want to – inconsistencies in the running game, which was fantastic last night, more than at a second. But whatever you want to say about them, fine. The defense is elite. They've got a championship-level defense. Sure, refs were questionable. There was a lot of griping in stadium. The reversal on the targeting was sort of baffling to me. But I'm not going to make it about the refs. The refs are not why Texas A&M lost. They got physically whipped at the point of attack. Trey Wisner was running like a man with his hair on fire. Again, the push up front, though, was the difference. I thought Quinn made some big throws. I thought used his legs as well, which was impressive. Had that long one down the sideline, which that ankle looked pretty good going in. We were hearing rumors that maybe, also, guys, I know I'm hitting you with a lot right now. I love the way Sark used Arch Manning. I thought bringing him in, that was kind of a wrinkle I don't think we had really seen to this point. Bringing him in red zone, using his running ability. He also mixed it up well. He mixed a passing play in there. So, I thought that was a really good job. Arch with that big touchdown run, obviously, on the left side to get the scoring going. And then, guys, that final stand, which that really sealed the game, you get the pick six, you get kind of back within striking distance, and you get the block punt. You're like, this game is about to turn on its head. And the decision to two things. The decision to not kick the field goal, being down 2 possessions with 4 minutes left, or if you want to say it was the right move, the play call, where it's I feel like that was such an ego play call, where it's I know you want to believe you can push them around. But they've shown you all night that you can't. So you got to try something different. It was about the worst play call in that situation. Texas obviously snuffed it out. What was it, 4 or 5 yard loss?
4 or 5 yard loss.
And that was the ball game. And that was the ball game at that point. So listen, for everything Texas A&M didn't do, what I don't, guys, want to get lost in the shuffle, give credit to Texas, because they went in, hostile environment. It was a hatred-filled atmosphere. I mean, the pregame was great. Going into the game was great. It was a top-tier atmosphere. And Texas was unbothered. Texas was unfazed. And all they did, lunch pail mentality, was went out there and just whipped Texas A&M's ass all night at the point of attack. And the Aggies had no answer.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of felt like 17-0, 17-7, and it felt like a 20-point lead.
It felt out of reach at 17-0. It really did. The way
even after the pick six and the fumble, you feel like A&M was never going to.
To your point, Dave, on the pick six, it got loud in there. But I could sense it was a loud where it was it was loud, but you could tell everybody in the back of their mind was we still can't score on offense. You know what I mean? It wasn't that lose your mind loud.
I mean, you're almost how does this kid not try to pick this up and run instead of just fall on it? That's the only way we're going to score.
And you know what everybody's thought was around me when he fell on it? We can't score from the 19.
No, I mean, that's a little bit of awareness on the kid. It's damn, dude. I mean, I get it. You may not pick it up, but the risk is worth the reward, in my opinion, because the offense can't do anything. But you're right. Texas's defense, really good. I think everybody thought there'd be a bigger drop-off from Devondre Sweat and Byron Murphy. Vernon Broughton, Alfred Collins, definitely not Loved both those kids in their recruitments when I was at A&M. Good people, good family. Mom played basketball, I think, at Texas. I mean, overall, you're right. The ankle, whatever the thing they were showing on TV, the support thing that the Texas training staff had must really work. He's right. Quinn looked a little more mobile than he normally does, and he had an ankle injury all week. So that was good. I agree with you, Chris. I like how they mixed in Arch Manning. I'll say this, and some people may call me crazy. Cole may disagree because me and him disagree on this. I don't think Jalen Milroe is a natural runner. Arch Manning is a more natural runner in the zone read than Jalen Milroe is. Jalen Milroe is wrong 90% of the time on his keeps. That's why they don't run it a lot. Arch Manning, Haynes King, guys like that have a better feel for the interior run game, or you would see it more from Alabama. It just is what it is. I love how you're mixing that in. If you were Texas, right down the stretch from that perspective, I thought the environment would be worse. Thought the snap count, the cadence would be off a little more, but it wasn't. They handled it. We kind of got the SEC championship game most of us thought we would see. Texas, Georgia. And
I mean, I didn't, but that's on me for believing that Lane Kiffin was going to get the job done in a year where everything.
Yeah, come on, Cole. Who was thinking that?
Sadly, me. But you know what I am thinking, and I would like everyone come close. Shh, come here. You who thought that Texas wasn't a top 5 team this year had no idea what you were talking about. You were always wrong. You always were going to be wrong. Cole Thompson was always right. And I'm going to back it up because I have told you time and time. And let's just say it one more time, a time again, how elite this defense is. And the numbers back it up. Everyone wants to focus in on the offensive inconsistencies from Quinn Ewers, from the deep shots, from the inability to run the football, the fumbling problems, the offensive line, the insecurities. So let's just go back and look at how good this defense has kept them in games. And I might add in, this is from 2023 when they went to the college football playoff, to 2024 where they joined the SEC, a conference that quote unquote just means more. So in 2023, they ranked 15th in scoring defense, allowing 18.9 points per game. In 2024, in the SEC, 11.7 points per game. Number 2 in the country, only behind Ohio State. In 2023, they had the 3rd-ranked run defense, allowing 82.3 points per game. In 2024, they had the 14th-ranked run defense at 103.5. In 2023, they had the 39th-ranked pass defense, allowing 213 yards per game. In 2024, they had the number 1 ranked pass defense with 143 yards. They ranked number 3 in total defense in 2023. They ranked number 2 in total defense in 2024. In 2023, they ranked 7th in red zone conversions. In 2024, they ranked number 3. In 2023, they ranked number 6 in third down conversions against opponents. In 2024, they ranked number 2. In 2023, they had the turnover margin at 30. In 2024, they ranked top 5. They lost talent, but they gained depth. They built this roster up to be a legit force in the SEC and a hell path that was never going to be stopped. The names that they brought in, from Trey Moore to Andrew Makuba to Alfred Collins getting a bigger role, to Vernon Broughton getting a bigger role, for the way that this team has been able to corral Johnny Nansen coming on in, Bill Norton coming on in, Sevilla, Cole, whoever you want. They have delivered performances after performances after performances. That is a reason why we can say they are good enough to be in the college football playoff and win a national championship. I get it. The schedule is easy, but this is the SEC, damn it. I get it. You want to talk about how easy everything is. We can't keep moving the goalpost because if Texas had it made. Texas did its part. And on the biggest stage in a rivalry that we have waited for 13 years, to come back, they were the dominant team. So I'm sorry. Even if they lose to Georgia in the SEC championship game for a second opponent, a second time, I'm okay with that. Because if I still know this defense is going to deliver against teams in the ACC, it's going to deliver against teams in the Big 10, it's going to deliver against teams in the Big 12, they can go on a run and make it to the semifinals and maybe a national championship. So stop complaining about the schedule. Stop complaining about how they looked at times against quality or inferior opponents. They proved, once again, offense wins games. The offense did enough to win the game. Defense wins championships. They're going to have a shot at winning a national championship.
I think Texas is the same as a lot of the other teams. They can lose on a given day against another good team.
But there are no elite teams this year in college football, Dave.
Well,
so
I understand. Cole, I'm the one who echoes that.
Yeah.
That's my point. I think this is a 1 through 12 playoff. Texas could lose their first game. They could win the whole thing. I'm not ready to just put them in. Again, y'all have been more reactionary off week to week where I'm like, dude, This is a total. Texas struggled against Kentucky the week before. Right? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not ready to crown them national champions for winning last night.
Okay, I'm gonna pick a bone with you. They didn't struggle against Kentucky the week before. Here's what happened. They realized they were up 24-0, and they kept Quinn Ewers in, and it nearly cost them a shot of him playing in this game. Like, that was coaching malpractice, in my opinion, last week.
Coaching's a part of the team, though.
Right, but that was coaching malpractice. You're up by 3 scores, and you're playing a quarterback with an ankle problem. Why? That's a bad look for Sark. Why? It's Kentucky. Your defense is doing its job. Your offense can get a couple more points. Just keep him out. That's all I'm asking for. Like, I won't even say it's a struggle performance. It's the fact that he was playing on one bum ankle and was clearly got an MRI right afterwards. At that point, if you're a smart coach, you take him out of the game. That's what Sark has to do. And I think that Sark realized that inside the red zone, because we all put ourselves and said, hey, bingo card, start of the year. Who had Arch Manning score the first touchdown in the Lone Star Showdown for the first time in 13 years?
Yeah. No, and I'm not a hater of anyone. I just feel like I'm the proud out there at saying there's not an elite team in college football.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's not that one, which is what has made it so much fun this year, I think. I want to say this really quickly, guys, from the Aggies perspective. You mentioned, Dave, is the city burning? It's not quite burning. They didn't set flame to Kyle Field, but a lot of sad, despondent, disparaged Aggies out there. We had some fun last night. I went back to the Texags HQ and was hanging out with some of those folks, and we were perusing through the message boards a little bit, which I highly suggest don't ever do that.
Don't ever.
But it was sort of a sick way of coping for them to see what people were saying, and it was about as down and out as you'd imagine. I think Mike Elko's a really good coach. I think he's got some things to evaluate over this offseason. Colin Klein being one of them. I don't think he should fire Colin Klein, but I think you have to reassess what you're doing offensively. I'll be curious to see if they go out to the portal and get a quarterback, a game-changing quarterback. But I would say this to Aggies, as much as it hurts, because I know that leaving that stadium, Texas fans are chanting SEC, 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 and I'm like, man, like I know how painful it is, because they felt like they got this 12-year, 13-year head start on them, and Texas now comes into the league, walk in your trap, take over your trap. Oh, by the way, we're also going to the SEC title before you. This is year 1 for us. Again, Elko's a good coach. You got to go out and get better players. Texas is just more talented than you right now. It is what it is. And I think he can get them there. I also don't know. I'm sure Aggies do know this, but talking to the folks I talked to this weekend, the rebuild that he had in front of him after Jimbo was a lot more severe than people, I think, even realize.
Beyond.
It was far more severe. So listen, you got a good one in Mike Elko.
It was a good season for him.
It wasn't. It'll be. It will be one that I think is lost in the shuffle and maybe forgotten, at least in the short term, the immediate, because you lost to Texas. But 8-4, 5-3 in conference with a shot to go to the SEC title in the final game of the season. You told
A&M fans that, before the season,
I think that's a really good year, which is why I came into the season saying, hey, let's try to keep realistic expectations. Let's give Mike Elko an opportunity to overachieve. And I think he did that. I know the expectations are high. I get it, but I don't think it should be written off as a bad season when, again, in the final game, you're playing for a shot to go to Atlanta. You're A&M, you just got to go get more players. It's really as simple as that. Texas was just a better football team than you, top to bottom. They've got more high-quality football players. And, again, they showed that last night. There's just no denying it. So, and it starts up front. And, again, that's where they won the game, guys, was in the trenches. So, it was
Kevin Banks was out for Texas for a bit in that game.
I was going to echo what Cole said. Bottom line, though, I don't care what side you're on. It's great to have the Lone Star Showdown back. I feel grateful that I was there and got to witness it. It had game of the year kind of vibes going in, and for the dramatics that it lacked, it was still a very highly dramatic game. A lot of intensity, a lot of energy in that stadium. So really enjoyed seeing it. And again, now Texas goes to Atlanta to take on the Georgia Bulldogs. Any closing thoughts on this game? I want to make sure that we cover this one as thoroughly as possible.
Let me just go real fast. You got to see Texas A&M. You got to see the complex. You got to see Kyle Field.
Shout out to A&M football. It is Kyle Field, the facilities. It's a spectacle. It is beautiful. It's as beautiful as anywhere I went all season.
I got to ask you, when you look at that place and you saw the allocations and the resources that they have down there, and Dave and I know this because we've been inside that building multiple times. That's a place that can win a national championship. They have the pieces in play to win a title at some point.
Not to echo what others have said, because I know many, Cole, to your point, have gone on record publicly, those in media, those not, and have said this exactly what I'm going to say. But yeah, I mean, it's got all the makings of a national title. You know, the only thing they're missing truly is like the history, like the championships. I wasn't even going to say tradition, because A&M's about as deep rooted in tradition with. You know, I thought it was really cool. Like everything they do there, nothing there is like they didn't make up this tradition 10 years ago. It is like hundreds of years of it's deep rooted, like being an Aggie, the 12th man, all of it. So to your point, they have everything there to be one of the top programs in college football. They're not missing anything. They just got to go get the guys. That's all it comes down to at this point.
It is a beautiful cathedral of chaos. It is a magnitude place that has everything at reach to win titles and have sustainability. It just needed the right coach. And there's a lot of A&M fans that think that I hate on them. There's a lot of people that think that I am against Texas A&M. And you know what? Fine. If I got to be the villain, I'll be the villain and say that right now you were never going to win. You were never going to win the SEC this year. You were never going to get that far. You never were. So let's just go ahead and throw that out there. But you have the coach. You have the right guy. You have the person at the helm that is going to put an emphasis on recruiting, on research for building up nutrition systems, on putting a title on a certain big mentality inside that state, on the physicalness of what is supposed to be Texas A&M football with the wrecking crew, the Maroon Goons. They eat, live, and breathe this staff. They do. But stop saying because you didn't beat Texas in year one, a team that has been building to this moment and last year went to the college football playoff, that this was a lost season. Stop saying that this was a year because if you didn't get to go to Atlanta, even though you were close and you were ranked inside the top 15 at one point, that this is a lost season. I've mentioned this how many times? You buy a house. Somebody lived in there. Somebody has been around the building. You can do whatever you want. You can fix the furniture. You can go ahead and re-shrub the entire yard. You can go take out all the tile. But there is going to be a stench for one full year of the previous ownership. That was the Auburn game underneath Jimbo Fisher. That was the letdown performance and a total beatdown by South Carolina. That was you not being able to establish a quarterback consistently this year. That was Jimbo Fisher. The remnants of last tenure was there. He'll have the place up and running. A&M is going to be a top 25 team every single year underneath Mike Elko. He is the right guy. But can we stop this morning saying, number one, he can't beat Texas? They played one time. They played one time at 13.
People have been saying that?
On Texas message board. Guy's not the right fit because he didn't beat Texas in year one. Can we stop with this?
I would have to listen to more credible people.
Can we stop with this? It's not incredible. It's year one.
I would say this. I was having this conversation this morning. If you want to be upset that
it's why you lost last week.
I think
it would be more disappointing to me.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, if you want to be upset that you got a 13-year head start and Texas is still ahead of you, don't blame Elko. Blame Jimbo. That's whose fault it is. It's not Mike Elko.
Kevin someone too.
Yeah, blame someone. Blame the recruiting.
But it's certainly not on Elko. He's done all he could this year. I thought he did a great job. It's as an Aggie, you're going to be upset how it finished, but he did about all he could. So,
my God, can we stop with the negativeness around him? He's a good coach. He's a solid one. And more importantly, he's a dude that will get you to a playoff eventually. I have no doubt about it. It just wasn't in year one. So stop coping. It's fine. It was always going to be this way. He's a strong coach. You'll figure it out. And I'll promise you this. There are some kids that saw the emphasis of what is Kyle Field at 109,000 packed. And they will say, I don't even care about Texas, what the tradition is there. I want to go play for the Aggies. I want to go play for the 12th man. There are people that are going to do that. The transfer portal is going to do that. Because NIL Club, they are the only team that can fire a coach worth $72 million buyout and then feel good about where they are moving in the right direction. They're the only team in college football that can do that because of the oil money.
Yeah, so, it's a cool place. It's a really cool place.
Just give them some time. Give them 2 more years, and I promise you, this is going to be a rivalry that we're going to talk about week in and week out as one of the best in the SEC.
They need to go get a quarterback.
They need a quarterback.
Yeah, got to get a quarterback, got to get some playmakers. I think I was told this morning Quinn accounted for just over 50% of their offense production. Marcel Reed accounted for over 80%. So what does that tell you? Outside of him, they just don't have a lot of guys that can get the job done. They got to go get some playmakers. And I agree with you. I think you got to go get a quarterback. I don't dislike Marcel Reed. I don't think any of us do, but
it's just a ceiling.
You got to have that game changer. I just don't think Marcel Reed's really that game changer. Either that or you're going to have to surround him with elite type of weapons. So, which, either or. But again, moving off this game, the thing I don't want lost in the shuffle, certainly I think we gave them their roses, but give Texas all the credit in the world for everything A&M didn't do. I thought it was more about what Texas did. They came in as the big bad bullies, and they punched A&M in the face, and they punched them in the face until they gave up and went into submission. That's what Texas did in the game. So, guys, let's move to what happened in the Palmetto State, the Palmetto Bowl. South Carolina beats Clemson in dramatic fashion. Norris Sellers with the touchdown there at the end, 17-14 final score. Gamecocks outscore Clemson 10-0 in the fourth quarter to cap off, guys, a magical season truly in Columbia. And now South Carolina, of course, they will await their fate in regards to the college football playoff. Shane Beamer coming out in postgame saying, I do believe we should be in the 12-team college football playoff. I do believe we're one of the best 12 teams in college football. And, guys, I think he has a legitimate gripe. We'll talk more about the playoff, though, when the rankings come out, all that stuff. But, guys, specifically this game, huge win for South Carolina. From a program perspective, program standpoint, a massive win. Norris Sellers did what we've seen him do all year, just a guy that just has a knack for making the big play. It went about how I expected from the standpoint, guys, the style of the game. I really felt like it was going to be lower scoring. For everything Clemson struggles with, they still have an elite-level defense. The talent they have on defense speaks for itself. And give the Gamecocks credit, man, guys. I feel like they did what they've done all year. Good teams find ways to win games. Bad teams find ways to lose games. This is a really good football team in Columbia, South Carolina, and yet again, at the end, they found a way to win a game, this time against the arch rival. And, guys, again, I just want to hammer it down and reinforce it to give you guys the perspective. South Carolina just won 9 games in a regular season for just the 8th time in school history.
Yeah.
And beating Clemson, beating your rival, that is a really, really, really big deal. It is a really big deal. So
you've won twice in a row now.
Well, so 2 of 3 because you lost last.
No. I'm saying you've won twice in a row in Clemson.
Oh, in Clemson,
yes,
yes, because in 22 you got the win as well. So, congrats to the Gamecocks. Congrats to Shane Beamer. Obviously, guys, I had a smile on my face seeing the result of that game. And there's a lot of folks. I had buddies at that game, a lot of friends. Our guy Eric Reese, who does all of our graphics and everything and makes us look cool. Eric was at the game. There's a lot of great Gamecocks that I know and love and care about deeply that I'm really, really happy for today. And again, all the credit in the world goes to Shane Beamer, Clayton White, Dalvin Loggins as well, that entire staff and that football team for getting it done. Hell of a job, hell of a win. And, now you wait and see if that 9-3 is good enough to get yourself in the 12 team.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. Specifically this game, South Carolina backed up against the wall again, late down. You had the great interception by Clemson. You're right, man. That may have been the nail that ended it from a standpoint of just that specific game. But no, Clemson, I mean, South Carolina keeps fighting back. The 3rd and 18, Norris Sellers. I keep saying it from week 1 to now is the most improved.
166 rushing yards.
Yeah. SEC and the country probably at this point. I mean, again, he's the offense. It's him and Rocket Sanders. And they've kind of come into their own here in the last – again, I mean, I even see South Carolina fans complaining about Dow Loggins. Again, I've said it all year. From a schematic football standpoint, Dow Loggins, Norris Sellers aren't great matches, but Norris Sellers is just bailing them out. Like plays that could be – I haven't seen a kid in a long time kind of do what he's done from that could be a 12-yard sack and do an 18, 20-yard game.
And I'll tell you this, Dave, it's been a really long time since I've seen a guy at South Carolina that can do what Sellers can do from the standpoint of, to your point, he can go out there and make it up on his own. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he can, even if you think the scheme is bad, sometimes you just get a player where it's like, he's better than the bad scheme. I mean, he can bail you out. He can make a bad OC
Well,
look
again,
pretty
that's why I
good.
always said when me and Cole were talking about LSU this year in person. You always take players over coaches, dude.
Right.
I mean, it's the Jimmies and Joes. It don't matter what the coaches know.
Yeah.
Whatever the best player, you take the best players. Yeah. If you're a little downgrade in DAWGS, I'll take that over if you give me the ceiling of the Norris Sellers. So you got to give the credit to South Carolina from that perspective. Big time for the defense to come up with the pick at the end of the year. I feel like it carried them for about 50% of the season until DAWGS was like, you know what, we need to, as long as Rocket or Norris is touching the football, we're probably okay. Like, we're probably okay. Let's just ride that. Will we struggle at times a little bit offensively? Sure. But you know what? This is our best bet. These are our two best players. So like you said, Chris, dumb it down. Hey, man, it's a player's game. It's a Jimmy's and Joe's. It's not an X's and O's type game. Let's go get the ball in our best players' hands. Big win, like you said, in the Palmetto State. Now they get to sit here and see 9-3. Is it good enough? You can make an argument, not an argument. They're playing as good as anyone in the country could beat anybody right now. I think that's very fair.
Yeah, I'll say this before we get to Cole. And again, I don't want to spend too much time on this because Tuesday when the rankings come out, obviously next Sunday, we're going to completely break this down and banter and debate. Do they deserve to get in from a resume standpoint? I don't know. If you want to argue, listen, head-to-heads, I get it. Do they deserve to get in the playoff? Yes. I think South Carolina is deserving of being in the college football playoff. I will fight tooth and nail about the whatever Big 12 team it is or ACC team it is or just other non-SEC team. I think we probably all agree. I'd put South Carolina on the field with any of them, and I would say that they deserve to be in over this team. Again, we'll see what the committee does. You understand because of head-to-heads, and I'm not sitting here saying they deserve to be in, like, for example, over a Bama that they lost to head-to-head, but the way that team is played, and it's not all about did you get hot down the stretch, right? Because then that throws a lot of wrenches in things, and like games at the beginning of the season have to matter the same at the end. But, I think that team is deserving of being in the 12-team playoff somehow, some way. Some things maybe have to break for them, obviously. But in regards to, like you mentioned, week 1 to week 14, the improvement we've seen across the board, that defense they feature, which again was fantastic yesterday, that has the looks and the makings of a college football playoff team. Will they get it? I don't know. I don't know if they will, but they have the makings of a college football playoff team, and I don't blame any Gamecock out there saying they deserve to be in because the way they play down the stretch is I think it just speaks for itself.
He's going to be in the Heisman Trophy presentation next year. If you're asking me the way that he played yesterday, and that carries on over into 2025, that's got to be your favorite for the Heisman Trophy.
Sellers.
And by the way,
Sellers.
And by the way, it's so funny how we think that we know things and then we have no idea what we're talking about. Because at the start of the year, when we were sitting back in Dallas in July for SEC Media Days, the future of college football through the SEC ran through the quarterback in Knoxville, Tennessee, and Nico Iamaleava. And you know what? That's very fair. Nico has improved. He's going to be a big reason why Tennessee came on strong toward the season's end. He's gotten more adapted to the style of offense that Heupel wants to run. He was part of that conversation. Jackson Arnold was part of that conversation. There were other quarterbacks that we were kind of hyping up that maybe could be under the radar prospects. At the end of the year, the two guys that I'm most excited to see moving forward in the SEC are DJ Lagway and Lenore Sellers. And that's going to be your baseline for stability at the center, underneath center for the next 2 years. And they can build a program. The thing about a team like South Carolina that I love, and we're going to break down this game in a minute for me, is that your selling point is Sellers. When a transfer enters the portal and says, you want to catch passes from this dude, he can win a Heisman Trophy. He can lead us to a college football playoff appearance. He can lead us deep into the postseason picture. You want to go catch touchdown passes from him. There'll be players that will sign on up. The way that last year, a former South Carolina wide receiver thought that it would be better to go join forces with Jackson Dart down in Oxford, Mississippi. So the exact same thing is going to be there for a quarterback like Sellers. The other thing that's really important is that he does things that you can't prepare for. Literally, the 20-yard run when he was sacked behind the line of scrimmage for a loss of 9 yards, and then he's getting 14. How do you stop that? Simple. You don't. He's 242 pounds. He's 6'3". He's a nightmare to tackle. His vision is second to none. Rec specs aside.
It's really his lower body and core.
But I think his vision to me is still just phenomenal when he makes the cuts. Now, it's hard for him to bring down because of that size. But I think that he, like you brought this up to me many times, Dave, how Jalen Milroe doesn't make the right reads 90% of the time. I think Sellers does, personally.
Sellers is a better design runner than Jalen Milroe. It's not even close.
Not even close.
Jalen Milroe may be one of the worst in the league.
I think that the other thing that's really important here is that he does have deep ball and he can get better with that intermediate pass. There's a lot to like about this. The veterans stepped on up yesterday, and there were 2 egregiously bad penalties against South Carolina's offensive line for unsportsmanlike conduct. So we got to throw that in there. I mean, it was a bad thing. And one of those led to the interception by Sellers because they were deep inside their own territory. He gets the pick. But to watch the confidence of this kid, do you remember in that Alabama game where he threw that deep interception instead of waiting for a play to get on open? We went back and we watched it, and I think it was not MIZZOU Bennett. I think it was Nick Harbor running down the opposing sideline. If he would have stretched it that way instead of trying to hit the middle of the field, that may have been a touchdown, and South Carolina wins the football game. I think that maturity has shown up in the last 4 games to where he's not going to make those bonehead decisions throwing into triple coverage that are going to lead to an interception. I think that the problem is that when you put him in a good spot to where he knows when to tuck and run, when to be able to keep it, when to be able to decide what is the right call. He's not afraid to go ahead and do the shovel pass. It's dangerous, but it can connect. Those are some things that are just unteachable, and they're going to be able to build off it. They got to get better on the offensive line. I mean, he was under pressure immensely yesterday. You have Josiah Thompson at left tackle. That'll be fine. You're going to have to, I think, bring in at least one more wide receiver. The defense stepped on up once again. You're going to have to go in the portal and bring in the right personnel to replace guys like Kyle Kennard, replace guys like Debo Williams, replace guys like Knighton, replace guys like Nicky Minwori. But there's enough to like about what the foundation of this team is that they can be a contender in 2025. And again, I'm going to jump out on the limb and say I think South Carolina makes the playoff in 2025. I really do. But I understand that it's going to have to come with the transfers. It's going to have to come with a great recruiting class. It's going to have to come with upgrading certain positions, maturity at certain spots. But that performance yesterday, down, but not out. They bent, but they didn't break. And give a testament to Clemson. Clemson was a lot more physical than I think a lot of people want to give credit to. Their offensive line did a good job preparing for Dylan Stewart and Kyle Kennard. They only allowed 1 sack on the day. And yet still, when you need a big-time statement, whether it be Tonka Hemingway on the fumble recovery on the backwards pass to Phil Maffa, whether it be the Knighton interception inside the red zone, whether it be a great stop on 4th down when Dabo probably should have just taken the 3 points in the first quarter, all those things aside, that to me is where I can say South Carolina has shown you if we're going to reward teams for how we're going to reward teams for having a bad loss at the end of the year. We also have to reward teams for how they look at the season's finish. I understand that head-to-heads matter. I really do. But South Carolina is a top 10 team in college football right now. Now I'm not going to sit here and try and argue with anybody. I'm not. If they put in a Miami at 10-2 over South Carolina, you are allowed to riot. If they put in, I think even an SMU at 11-2, you're kind of allowed to riot.
Not Ole Miss or Alabama, Cole. You can't stand on the fence. You can't stand on the fence.
Here's what I will say.
It's a yes or no question.
Nope. I personally believe that no 9-3 team should be complaining about missing the college football playoff because you didn't do your job. You did it. You went 9-3.
Those 3 teams, who do you think?
The only one that's allowed to complain is South Carolina because I still believe that they got shafted on the play with the Nicky Minwori interception. SEC officiating cost them the game against LSU. I stand on that. I'll stand on that until I die. And if I got to ride that fence, I'll ride that fence. If you ask me right now, who am I putting in? I'm putting in South Carolina over Ole Miss and Alabama. I am. That's my stance.
You're like,
well, and here's the bigger issue too, I think, is we talk about like the automatic qualifiers and everything. I mean, Clemson is going to the ACC title game, and if obviously they beat SMU, they are in via being the ACC champions, even though they just lost to South Carolina. So I mean, that to me is what's wacky about it. But yeah, I mean, Dave, listen to your point, and again, we will spend a lot of time talking about this Tuesday night, all the reactions to the rankings. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's going to be interesting. How much does I don't think South Carolina is going to jump Ole Miss and Alabama when they lost to them head to head. I don't know how you can maneuver your way around that simple fact. As many holes as you can poke in Ole Miss and Alabama, it's like we saw the game, especially the Ole Miss game. So, anyways, like I said, we'll get in that more when it comes out. But this game in a vacuum, guys. Again, a huge win for South Carolina. A magical season in Columbia.
And can we also just throw in real fast? 9-3. You went 9-3.
It's a great year. It's a great year.
Yeah.
Everyone picked them to be like 12th in the SEC.
Yeah.
You're going to finish top 5. And you're going to
playoff or not. playoff or not,
year.
9-3, year 4 of Shane Beamer, when there was a lot of chatter, or at least some chatter over the offseason, like, what's the status of Beamer? Is he the right guy? Is the seat warming up? That's been put to bed, to say the very least. So, and you got the right guy at quarterback. You got to go add some pieces, I think, obviously, at wide receiver. What does Lenora Sellers look like with actual, and this is no disrespect to anybody, what does he look like with a bunch of playmakers?
Yeah, because it's not a good receiver room.
No, it's not.
We knew it. Like, he creates all of it. Go back and watch every throw, like I did last week.
Yeah.
When those receivers are wide open because he's bringing on they're putting defensive backs in conflict. Do I come up and try to tackle this guy, or do I bail on my guy? He's gonna be wide open.
Yeah.
So I've said all year they got to find other guys.
They need one. I think they at least need one game changer to pair alongside.
I think now in college football more than ever. Back when I was in college, most teams had one good guy. Receivers are almost just as expensive from a standpoint of a roster salary cap in college football from an edge rusher to me now. If you can have explosive threats in the passing game, dude, that's a total game changer. It's a total game changer.
I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is that I still have hope that MIZZOU Bennett can be a quality number 2. I still have hope that Nick Harbor can be a quality number 3. If you can bring in a good tight end to replace Josh Simon and a legit force on the outside, one of the premier wide receivers that's going to enter the portal, I think that might be enough. Now, again, I think
Harbor has wide receiver 1 potential. He has a higher ceiling than MIZZOU Bennett.
I just like MIZZOU Bennett's route running. I think a lot more. That's my
they just need a wide receiver 1. That's they need a go-to guy that can go win some one-on-one.
What's wild is they've had that the last 2 years and didn't this year and had the better year because the run game on both sides of the line of scrimmage they had it. And South Carolina didn't have a bunch of injuries on the offensive line, which Chris, you followed the team. I feel like since back to the Roosevelt era, the Roosevelt administration, they've had injuries on the offensive line, multiple. So they had the blessing of that this year, which helped. Look at Missouri's season last year. I think they had the same starting 5 on the offensive line the whole year. So you need that. Great teams need that to happen for them. Rocket Sanders kind of got back to his old Arkansas ways. And then you were really good on the defensive front 7. So, that's a recipe for winning football.
Yeah. And guys, getting off this really quickly before we do, Shane Beamer now, most wins through his first 4 seasons of any coach in South Carolina history. That includes Steve Spurrier. So just something to think about. Not saying he's better than Steve Spurrier, but that's a hell of an accomplishment, especially, guys, when after 3 years, last year in the season, people were saying that he was 1 win short of Will Muschamp's mark through 3 years, which obviously was something that stuck, obviously, in the crawl Gamecocks. It was just an ugly stat you didn't want to hear. Well, now you don't have to hear that anymore.
Chris, off the top of my head, what was Muschamp's best year? 9-4?
I think 9-4.
Yeah, that was when he won his best year was when they won the
Outback Bowl win over Michigan.
Yeah, but it was a very – just looking back, it was a very smoke and mirrors kind of year. A lot of really turnover aided. And I think that played out the following year when it was like, the defense can't bail you out anymore. They can't be plus 25 in the turnover margin or whatever it was that year. But anyway,
there's also one more thing I just want to throw out.
Yeah.
He has beaten the win total in 3 of his first 4 years.
Yeah.
That says a lot about the direction of what this team is. And for my money, when you have a guy that can do that with Zeb Nolan as your starting quarterback, with no offensive line 1 year, with question marks at wide receiver 1 year, when you do that kind of stuff, you're made of the right sauce out in Cola.
Yeah, for sure. It's bright days ahead. They got the right guy for the job, for sure. Guys, let's jump back to Friday, by the way. I do want to talk about this game briefly. Georgia Tech, one of the thrillers of the weekend, 8 overtimes. What's crazy, guys? Through 3 quarters, I'm sitting on an under 49.5 ticket. I felt pretty good. Yeah, that got squashed in that 4th quarter, 31 total points. Then we go to 8 OTs. Georgia survives 44-42. Guys, we could spend all day debating the overtime rules. Do we love them? Do we hate them? But, man, this is a classic in Athens, and by the hair of their chinny chin chin, Georgia finds a way yet again to survive.
Yeah, I feel like this game is just the story of the entire sport this year. It's just like, Georgia looked really good 1 week, and then they'll just show up and easily could have lost.
I think, Dave, I was telling people this weekend, we just have to accept the fact college football this year is awesome.
And you take it week to week. You can't make big picture assumptions after 1 week.
Hey, listen, we all said we wanted more parity, and the college football gods were like, bet.
Sure.
They said bet. All right, here you go.
Yeah. So. No, the defense was disappointing to me in this one for Georgia in that perspective. Glenn Schumann's bunch, man. Haynes King was just a flat out dog, dude.
Baller.
I mean, even in a loss, you have people coming up to him and being like, dude, nice job. Dude, it was kind of like I talked about all week when I was at Texas A&M, everybody going up to Joe Burrow after that loss. I mean, he had to get carried off by his own offensive line because he left after 7 overtimes and full body cramps. And I remember people just going, dude, hell of a fuck. I mean, that was his last loss.
You guys probably know this. I was told by some of the Aggies here his nickname was Haynes the Turnover King.
Yeah.
That's Jimbo's second.
Not meant as a shot, but that was the way they called it.
It was a shot, but I'm gonna say the part that people don't want to listen to. It was never Haynes King's fault. It really wasn't. I mean, don't get me wrong, you needed a transfer, but
he didn't fit Jimbo's system.
He didn't fit Jimbo's system.
But I see where Jimbo liked him. The kid came from a coach's son. He's a coach.
Yeah, Longview. Yeah, it was great, and he won a state, and he won a state championship. Like,
and,
I mean,
Jimbo liked he could get after him, and it wouldn't affect him. It's kind of like Kellen Mond. It didn't really bother him if Jimbo got on his ass.
But he was never the problem.
Yeah, he balled in that game, though. He balled against Georgia.
In that game, no, he definitely did. Georgia, again, the defense, I feel like, hasn't been the same for 2 years, really, if you go all the way back. I mean, you can run on the interior of that defense this year, for sure. I mean, it's a miracle Georgia Tech sustained it. Did y'all see all the injuries they were having that secondary? They were about to call me from Peachtree City over here to have to come suit up in the old gold and blue. I mean, dude, seriously, they were losing guys left and right. I don't know if y'all remember that. They were depleted. I mean, I think they lost 4 starters at a very thin position group for most teams now, and they still hung around. It kind of bothered me a little bit. Did y'all see Brent Key didn't know the overtime rules?
Yeah, I saw
that. Anybody see that? He's like holding up 1. They're like, Coach, you got to go for 2. Like, geez, if I was him, I'd be a little embarrassed. That got on national television. Yeah, I mean, overall, it just is what it is. Georgia Tech's not a bad football team. You figured they were going to come in with a good game plan. I think Buster Faulkner, the OC at Georgia Tech's about to be named the head coach at Southern Miss. I thought he may not take that job because I could see him replacing Mike Bobo at Georgia, especially kind of what he did this past week. I mean, he was the understudy under Todd Monken, OC for the Ravens now. I mean, he's the best OC Georgia's had probably ever, and definitely under Kirby Smart. But, I mean, give both those teams credit for fighting back. I mean, that was an awesome game to see. It really was. Georgia has some things to fix. It'll be interesting to see how they adjust this week against Texas. Again, like we said, Georgia, Texas, kind of like the odds on said. But for Georgia Tech, I mean, again, Haynes King's that story, dude. And I think Brent Key has them going in the right direction. You can tell he genuinely cares about that program. Obviously, he played there. But no, you're right, Chris. That feels like forever ago at this point, that Friday night game, and it wasn't even 48 hours ago.
Yeah. Dave, I got a message from our good buddy that used to work at Georgia. You know who I'm talking about. I'll leave his name off. But he hit me up. He just said, DNA trait. DNA trade. Just Georgia, they just find ways to win.
There's two outliers. I asked y'all early when we started the show, what pick do you regret in the whole thing? The one we all got wrong and was probably the most truthful
Texas
thing.
by double digits over Georgia.
Georgia over Texas and then Georgia over Tennessee. I mean, Georgia, if Georgia would have lost to Tennessee, that would have gone against everything that program was about. Yeah. That was a 2 + 2 = 4.
Yeah.
Look, there's multiple truths here. Let's start with the first one. Georgia Tech is trending in the right direction underneath Brent Key. I think that when you have a dude that, number one, there's something about guys who are former offensive linemen or tight ends that just get this sport completely different because they're nail in the trenches, meat and potatoes type of motherfuckers. And that ends up helping them out in so many ways that benefits what the brand of football is. And you saw that physicality from Georgia Tech on Friday between the hedges. You watch that game be dictated by the line of scrimmage and the ability to open up the rushing attack for Haynes King, for Jamal Haynes, whoever it was. Number two, you can't blame Carson Beck for this one. This year has been a let's throw Carson under the bus when he has a bad performance, and this is why Georgia struggled. Carson Beck accounted for 5 touchdowns on the day, including also a 2-point conversion. He finished with 297 passing yards. He also rushed for another 15 yards. He put himself in a great situation.
He brought him back. I mean, he brought him back in that game.
He connected on multiple plays. The offensive play calling wasn't terrible in the first half either for Georgia. Georgia's had receivers dropping balls left and right. Like this is where
they've been so bad about that this year.
This is where you
they need Kobe.
I think they lead the country. I think they lead the country in drops.
Yeah,
pretty sure.
Well,
I think Colby Young's about to be coming back, so that'll help them tremendously.
They do need him.
Do you want to know who was number 1 before Friday's game?
Ryan
Williams. No, Tennessee. Tennessee had the most drops.
Oh, in drops. Okay.
Well, Ryan Williams leads the
conference. Yeah, by a single player.
Get another big one on Saturday.
We're not going to get into that.
Humble.
Oh, we are going to get.
No. We're not going to get into that at this very moment.
Okay.
The defense has not looked complete. Like all year, we have seen them deliver in big-time performances in droves, but we haven't seen a four-quarter performance from the defense. And then you go to overtime. And then we had the penalties. And then we had the timeout. And Kirby Smart's taking another timeout. And Joe Tessitore, hey, Joe, I love you. I think that you're one of the best in the game. I want to make this abundantly clear. I think that you are a pinnacle of college football. But I don't think after the 14th time we have to hear Georgia to make the college football playoff on this. Like, dude, we know what's going to happen if they win. We don't need to post in and throw down the noise on Georgia simply because we know that the ESPN wants more SEC representation. We get that. But like when people are going to go back and look at the calls or the missed calls, I'm going to go stand on my ground on this one. SEC officiating has been horrendous this year. It's been awful. It's been pathetically a terrible excuse. And more importantly, we don't live in a society anymore where it's 1975 and you're working at your dad's lumber mill and then you're driving the 6 hours to Starkville, Mississippi to call the Egg Bowl. You actually work as a referee. You actually are just a ref. Start putting in an emphasis if you are Greg Sankey, these guys being held accountable. And I'm saying this because of Georgia Tech had 2 blatant pass interference calls that were not called against Georgia. Georgia had a targeting call that was not against Georgia. Georgia had 3 errant holding calls. And I'm saying that when there's holding in the game, there's always holding in the game. If you don't like holding in college football, this is not the sport for you. Go ahead and join pickleball leagues or go ahead and join softball campaign. This is not the sport for you if you're saying holding. There are more missed holding calls in the NFL and college football than any other sport. So get over it. But there were blatant ones that were clear as day, holding him and throwing him down with one hand that were missed by officiating. So I don't want to hear from Georgia Tech fans this morning, he missed the PI, the targeting call. That was a targeting call on Haynes King. There was a targeting call against Georgia Tech player that wasn't called on Cash Jones. There was a PI in the back of the end zone. And thankfully, at the end of the day, when it's 8 overtimes, I'm not going to sit here anymore and try to say, it's 8 overtimes. You lost a football game in 8 overtimes. We got to end this shit. It's got to come to a close. But that's a game to where in the future, once again, like South Carolina, once again, like Alabama versus Oklahoma on the Ryan Williams catch, once again in the Iron Bowl, which we're going to talk about in a moment. Literally, you can't have this poor of officiating. It's embarrassing. It truly is. And more importantly, I think for Georgia, it's a wake-up call that we have to play our A game for 4 quarters because in this year, more than ever before, we may be known as Georgia, but we are not known as the dominant force in college football. Anybody can lose. Michigan just went into Columbus and beat the brakes off of Ohio State. We can lose on a Saturday. And we can't just say officiating's the problem. No, because officiating got us out of a few calls. They also missed a few calls on Friday night.
This looking ahead, and we're going to obviously break down the game, everything this week. This feels eerily similar to how Georgia was going into the Texas matchup earlier in the year where they didn't play great. And I think everybody's going to be like, man, they almost lost to Georgia Tech. Like, Texas is the obvious. And it's like, there comes that DNA trade again. That guy Kirby Smart still on that sideline. So, I don't know. I think to Dave's point, like you can get so lost at times in the week to week and try to make it A plus B equals C. And it just
then the next week they give you a total another.
I mean, Dave, what do you think? I think Georgia's going to look completely different than they looked against Georgia Tech.
I think a lot of it will depend on the Kelvin Banks injury. I mean, they got after Kelvin Banks and them originally. I mean, he's not. And again, think about it, guys. We're talking college. Texas is. I mean, if you're Texas a little bit, I know you want to go win the SEC. I mean, you're probably a little reserved with him this week with Kelvin Banks. You're kind of like, we don't have to go win this game. We're really playing for seeding. You may sit him. And that's kind of the conversations we all started talking about when this playoff got announced. Is this SEC championship game, again, it means something. I think winning the I grew up in this conference. I think winning the Kirby Smart's mentioned it. He's a guy from Georgia. Look, if you're from the Southeast, winning the SEC means something to you. But if you're Steve Sarkisian, if you're Kyle Flood and them, you're like, we got bigger goals and we will really struggle to win a national championship if our starting left tackle is out or he re-injures it against Georgia, and we played that extra game. So I don't know. I'm not saying he does sit. I'm sure he'll be ready, but that's something to be interested in. But you're right, Chris. Like, it's kind of the same storyline. People will probably be doubting Georgia a little bit coming in, as they should. I think
it's hard to beat a team twice,
I think
right?
It's fair, from the information you have at your hand right now. But yeah, I mean, I think it'll be a fun SEC championship game. It'll be interesting to see the adjustments both these teams.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun. I'm just not sure that I'm ready to go ahead and say that Kirby Smart's going to win this football game.
Yeah, we'll get more of that in the week, but hopefully the SEC title for all of our heart rates won't go to 8 overtimes. We'll just say that. Guys, let's go to Tuscaloosa Iron Bowl. Alabama beats Auburn yet again in Tuscaloosa, 28-14. The final, again, by far my worst pick of the weekend. I took a shot in the dark and missed badly. Auburn had opportunities early. I was able to catch a good bit of this game. Auburn had opportunities early. I think about them on the goal line and getting stuffed. And guys, give Bama's defense a lot of credit. I mean, it wasn't a perfect game, but I thought they played well against. Peyton Thorne had 300 yards passing in this football game. Keandre Lambert-Smith comes up just short of the 1,000-yard mark for the season. I think Auburn's they're not meant to have a 1,000-yard receiver for whatever reason. But Y2K, just 98 rushing yards for the Tigers, 13 carries, 56 yards for Jarquez Hunter, and Jalen Milroe goes over 100 on the ground and 3 touchdowns. So I know, Dave, obviously you're talking about Jalen Milroe's running ability, but he was able to do enough in the Iron Bowl yesterday. Listen, I'm going to pass it to 2 Bama alums, man. You guys.
I mean, I thought it was a good bounce back. Again, you're right, Chris. I think you can say for both teams, right? Auburn had chances, especially in the first half.
Yeah, they missed a lot of opportunities early.
A 3 to 4 point game. You also felt like Bama had other opportunities, though, to just go bury them. Like, they got off to the hot start in the third quarter. Couldn't have had a better start. Looks like they're about to go bury them. Then I know we're going to talk about it, but the penalty on the special teams, the whole flagrant, like, we're about to have a melee like we did in Michigan, Ohio State. How both teams don't get a call on that is amazing. How you only get that to one team. It doesn't even make sense when the Auburn guy, Keandre Lambert-Smith, initiated it, drug him over to the Auburn sideline. So I don't really get that. I thought overall, I was impressed with the defense, dude. Phenomenal game plan by Kane Womack. They got a lot of flack against Oklahoma, but I really thought after about the second quarter, third quarter, they adjusted to what Oklahoma, and again, Oklahoma's not awesome on offense, but they adjusted to their game plan, and it was the offense. I thought Deontay Lawson would be a bigger loss, and I think down the line, if Bama were to get lucky enough to make the college football playoffs, I think that will come back to haunt them. But I thought Auburn would take advantage of that a little more yesterday, and they didn't. And give Justin Jefferson credit, subbing him in, take over the green dot. He was the helmet communicator. Thought they did a really good job. Bray Hubbard, kid from my hometown. Kid from my hometown was his dad was my high school basketball coach. Dude, I mean, he shouldn't even be playing right now if Caleb Downs doesn't transfer. Keon Sabb doesn't get hurt. I think he's had an interception in 4 out of his 5 starts. So he's doing a really good job. I mean, from a Bama standpoint, offensively, I mean, it just is what I thought. They got whipped on the offensive line. I thought Auburn's defensive line kind of handled them for about 75% of the game. But overall, I was a little underwhelmed with Auburn. I thought the game plan would be a little better. Like what Hugh Freeze coming out there, I mean, essentially blamed Jarquez Hunter again for, hey, the double reverse pass. He shouldn't have thrown it. It was like, you probably shouldn't have called it. Like, and then you have, what's he doing taking a delay game on 4th down at the end, dude? If I was an Auburn fan, I'm almost like, at the end of the second half, I was like, dude, just go for it. You literally
have nothing to lose.
You would have changed the whole. You would have changed the whole momentum of that game going into half. Because once again, Jalen Milroe has a critical turnover late in the first half. I mean, you couldn't trust that guy to watch your dog right now at times. It's bad, dude. It's bad. They single-handedly will not win because of him, and obviously from a football standpoint, Deontay Lawson. Again, I said Bama may get lucky enough to get in. That's gonna hurt down the line. But again, I thought that was a good performance, good bounce back. You covered. Again, that's not a big – you won by 14. You were dominating the third quarter. I think if they don't call that special teams penalty, then it kind of – that would have been 3rd and 10. Instead, it was 1st and 10 Auburn at like the 40 after it. Bama was about to put the hammer in the coffin. I think if that doesn't happen, Bama probably runs away, wins this by like 24 plus. Either way, though, Chris, I think you're right. Auburn had chances in the first half to kind of make this a game. Bama's third quarter punch in the face brought him home. I think you couldn't take a better win, really. Yeah, you have some things to fix offensively. I don't even know if fix is the thing. I just kind of think this is who you are offensively. But I was impressed with the defense, the storyline for me.
No such thing as a bad win in the Iron Bowl. Period.
When you're able to finally slow down this offense and put an emphasis on what should have been play calls against Vanderbilt, what should have been play calls against Tennessee, what should have been play calls against Oklahoma, instead of trying to get cute with it, Nick Sheridan. This is why Alabama still has the makings of at least being in the college football playoff. They ran the football 53 times yesterday. I mean, how many times have we watched as Alabama has not established the run in the first half, and then they say, okay, we're going to go Jalen Milroe. He's got to do everything. He's got to run it. He's got to throw it. He's got to catch the football down the field. He's probably got to go ahead and make grandma some breakfast. He's got to go ahead and tell the referees why they should go ahead and let him take their daughter to the prom. Like, he's got to do all those things because of that's just Jalen Milroe for this team. They emphasized the rushing attack. They made sure that they were able to win on third down. 12 of 18 on third down. That's a winning formula.
Cole, 28 carries for Jam Miller. I mean, they committed to it.
They committed.
That's the first time they have all year.
Yeah.
And that's the frustrating part, is that they should have been doing it earlier in the season, and they probably would have been able to keep things close against Tennessee. I think they wouldn't have to worry about the interception against one of the interceptions in the Oklahoma game. Maybe that ends up pulling them back.
You say close against Tennessee? I think they could have won it.
They could have
against Tennessee. The game was only a 7-point game. They won the ball.
I'm not going to take away from Tennessee's defensive line because they did win the football game, but still, the fact is that if they would have emphasized the rushing attack, maybe some of these closer calls, maybe some of these games would have boded well in their favor. I agree with Dave on one thing. This is the end for Jalen Milroe at Alabama. I think that when you look at what is Crimson Tide football and what you want for Kalen DeBoer's offense to work, number one, they are so codependent on number 4 to be the emphasis. And I think it's because he has the mobility factor. I think that's a reason why they put so much pressure on him to be everything and anything. On top of that, I think there are some limitations to what he can do in a style of offense that you want to see run by Kalen DeBoer, to where it wasn't a problem for Michael Penix, where it wasn't a problem for Jake Haener, where it may be a problem for Jalen Milroe. And that's not saying that he's not a good quarterback. They had a good relationship. There's a shot they go to the college football playoff. And Jalen Milroe, we got to give him credit. Last year in an offense that was completely unfit for his style of play, led Alabama to an SEC title game, had the greatest comeback in the 4th and 31 of the season against Auburn, injury in hair, and he nearly was able to take Alabama to a national championship after a college football playoff berth. But much like any relationship that you know is destined to fail, there's that breaking point. I think that the Oklahoma game was the breaking point. Now they're just trying to find a way to tell the friends, tell the family, no, you guys didn't do anything wrong. We didn't do anything wrong. It's not you. It's not me. It's just we realize this is not going to work well together. If they go to the playoff, they have a couple more games. That's totally fine. But I feel like that if you really want to reach that next level for Kalen DeBoer's offense, it's not going to be with Jalen Milroe. Even how talented of a player he is. Because if they have talent at wide receiver, Jeremy Bernard stepped up really big yesterday in multiple facets. That's the version that I thought was going to lead Alabama in receptions, receiving yards, maybe be a Jameson Williams 2.0. On top of that, they also had a really good performance from the rushing attack. Jam Miller, the fact that you finally get to see what he really is, Justice Haynes, what he has been this year, the defense being able to get some critical stops. All of that aside, I think that Alabama, if they get into the playoff, they're probably not going to win a national championship, but they may at least be able to create some noise, get to the round of 8, maybe even the round of 4. However, the writing is on the wall. Something has to change. Meanwhile, what has to change, I have no idea who the hell is the special teams coordinator at Auburn. They got to go. Just out. Done. Nope. Done. The fact that you missed an easy field goal early on in the game, mind-boggling. Malpractice. Their defense has been the saving grace of the season for Auburn. They really have. I think Hugh Freeze has got to go out and not only bring in a new quarterback, one that can reach the pinnacles of Cam Ward-esque level. They got to go bring in a different play caller. I can't trust Hugh Freeze calling this offense anymore because of how much that is mind-boggling stupid with crazy things. How bad of a play design he has. It's ridiculous. It is. They have weapons. They have talent. They were masquerading as a bad team all year, but the play calling hurt them all year. They got to make some changes.
Whose seat is hotter going into next year, Hugh Freeze or Brent Venables?
Freeze.
Yeah, I'd say
Freeze.
I mean, I would agree. I'm just curious. I think that I think had Oklahoma not beaten Alabama, we might be having a different
You'd be
combo.
probably, yeah. I would agree.
But I think Freeze for sure. To your point, man. I mean, I think the A&M win was great for them. They enjoyed it, but the bottom line is you went 5-7. I mean, I remember Dave vividly saying the magic number's 8. You don't get to 8. They didn't even get to a
that
bowl
schedule
game.
wasn't that different. It's still, I mean,
I know.
Schedule's about as what we thought it would be. I mean, I know people are like, Cal's a 6-6 mid-tier AC. That's about what we thought they would be going to the year. The only team on their schedule that you probably say was better than you thought was Vandy.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, it wasn't an overly tough schedule. I mean, yeah, for you not to get to 8 wins this year was a total epic failure, and you missed it by 3 games. And again, you got to go find a Cole mentioned. You got to go find a quarterback. I like Deuce Knight, the freshman, but Deuce Knight's very injury prone.
You cannot hand the keys over to a true freshman with
in a must-have year.
Yeah,
in a must-have year 3.
I
think next year, I think he's got to get to 8.
Let me ask you guys this: they win that football game against Cal if Peyton Thorne doesn't have 4 interceptions, and then partially that's on Peyton Thorne, partially that's on the play calling. They win that game against Arkansas if they don't have 4 interceptions. Partially that's on Peyton Thorne, partially that's on the play calling.
And Hank Brown, by the way.
Yeah, they win that game. They win that game against Oklahoma if play calling is determined, hey, run the damn ball. Run the damn ball. That's all you got to ask for. They win that football game. So I understand that there is an expectation out of Oklahoma. I stand on it. I know what Oklahoma fans are saying right now. It's a disgusting appearance that they went 6-6 in their first year in the SEC. Meanwhile, Texas is rising on up, and people are forgetting that for years, Oklahoma ran the Big 12. So many people are forgetting about that. But many people also said with this offensive line, with this offensive performance, with this offensive line, you could expect a 6-6 season. Sorry, Clyde Chronicles is in there. It's pissing me off because he's an idiot. But anyways, this season, you could expect a 6-6 year. You cost yourself multiple wins by play calling if you're Hugh Freeze. He faced a hotter seat because they were better than what was 5-7. You are what your record says you are. Isn't just for teams that finish off on a strong note and lose a bad game early on in the season. It's also for teams that shoot themselves in the foot, and they probably are masquerading when they should be 7-5 instead of 5-7. I think both things are true.
Well, yeah, y'all agree? Y'all think 8 next year? I think he's got to get.
Yeah,
I think they got a lot more money dumped in that war chest this year. So Auburn could be. Call me crazy. Auburn could be the most improved team in the country next year, and that would not shock me.
Well,
at all.
yeah, because you just went 5-7. So yeah, to your point.
But, I mean, they could make a 3 to 4 game jump.
Yeah. I mean, I'd have to look at the schedule, but I definitely think probably getting to 8 again. It's going to be that's the magic number. You got to see significant improvement, and
I only say that because I think they're going to spend money. That's the only.
I'm kind of losing faith that Hugh Freeze is the answer there.
No, I think Hugh Freeze. I'll be honest with you. So, he lives off 2 wins in 2014 and 2015 against Alabama. If he doesn't win those games, then give him credit. He did win that. So I don't like playing the game. But if we're pulling layers back outside of those 2 wins,
yeah, because he's looked at as a guy that could beat Nick Saban, and like that's the biggest feather in his cap. So.
No, it's just plain simple. You beat Nick once. Congratulations. What does that show for you? Auburn is the toughest job in college football. I'm going to stand on that for as long as possible because of you have to recruit alongside Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee. You also have 2 of the biggest rivalries in the Deep South's oldest rivalry and the Iron Bowl. They have expectations there. They pay money there. Time to open up the checkbook. And by the way,
they're doing that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, I think they'll be a pretty improved team. Like, it wouldn't shock me.
They're going to go spend money this offseason. That's for sure.
and by the way, the other thing that's really important is when you look at a team like Miami that finishes the year 10-2. That is the equivalent of going 9-3 in the SEC next year. And you spending all this money. You have got to be better than this. Like, I'm sorry. And if it's play calling, it's play calling. Like quarterback aside, the play calling this year has been pitiful. Pitiful.
Yeah, it's been coaching malpractice for sure.
So, my God, bring in somebody else. You got to. Because I can't. I
well,
can't.
I mean, he just took the play calling duties over from somebody else. And then it's like, at some point, it's like, maybe you're the problem.
Well, heck, at least you're not going to a bowl game this year where he can't say he
he can get that head start in recruiting that he wanted to do last year when they no-showed against Maryland.
He can just go full-fledged signing day this week.
But there's an emphasis. You got to be able to not just recruit. You got to be able to develop talent. And like, that's the problem, is that name one player that you think is getting more improved underneath Hugh Freeze's staff that they bring in. Because honestly, the fact that Cam Coleman is not with 1,000 yards this year.
I thought the Jalen Crawford kid at star on the defensive side of the ball. Keldrick Falk got a little better, but I think to Cole's
defense
point,
was good.
If you're just talking offense, I mean, Keandre Lambert-Smith, that's not a developmental kid. I thought he was pretty good for him this year. A lot of teams would take him.
My God, if he was at Penn State right now, he'd be 1,000-yard receiver potentially.
We were talking about South Carolina's receivers. Keandre Lambert-Smith be South Carolina's number one. I think
he's a good player. Lambert-Smith's a good player.
Yeah. No, but you're right. Defensively, they have young cats they can build around. You're right, though. I agree. Offensively, nobody stepped up. Like you're waiting for Rivaldo Fairweather to have some like monster tight end game. But then you got a guy at Ole Miss coming from Virginia Tech. Daquan Wright comes in and has a better season too. So offensively,
but hey, top 10 recruiting classes, right? Hugh Freeze. That's what it's all about. Just bringing in the right boys.
Yeah, I've never seen somebody talk so much about their recruiting classes.
Yeah, at some point that loses its luster when you're not winning games on the field. So, guys, we got a few more games to run through, so let's run through them quickly. Egg Bowl, Ole Miss beats Mississippi State 26-14. Dave, you and I have talked about it a lot this year. Jeff Lebby was like the covering
Jeff Lebby on
king.
the road, dude. Maybe the greatest cover of all time.
He's the covering king. I mean, again, to your point, 2-10 this year, but he can. We've talked about it a lot. He can go to the country club, be like, hey, you see them dogs covered, didn't you? They covered in the Egg Bowl. I saw some people on Twitter. They were like, our worst team ever, or one of our worst teams had a lead on supposedly your best team. Like they were saying that. But any thoughts here, guys? I mean, Ole Miss just kind of limps their way into the close of the season. It was that uninspiring performance I think we expected, where it's like Ole Miss, you drop the ball against Florida. I didn't think they'd come out fired up and excited for this one. Did what they had to do to win, but it was an ugly game across the board.
No, I agree. Yeah, it is funny. Mississippi State, as bad as they were this year, it is, and they had the toughest road slate, I think, of anyone in the league. Texas, Ole Miss, who am I missing? Georgia and Tennessee.
Good teams win, great teams cover, baby.
Yeah.
They were a covering machine.
I was texting a Mississippi State friend the other day. He's like, dude, we play better on the road than we do at home. Arkansas kicked their ass. And
lost to Toledo.
Missouri beat the crap out of them. Yeah, Chris's bold pick of the season. Toledo beat the crap out of them 41-10 and all. Mississippi State just needs to start playing all 12 games on the road. But you're right. Lebby, I'm going to give him credit. Again, let me rephrase that. I'm not giving you credit for a 2-10 season. I just think, I don't know, they played looser on the road at times. And I thought, like you said, Chris, Ole Miss was sloppy. Like we kind of thought they would come out on. That was tough to come back from. I thought Mississippi State could have been a little more aggressive in that game. Again, that's like the Georgia game. This feels like 2 weeks ago at this point. But overall, failure of a year. You didn't win a conference game, Jeff Lebby. But I will say, if there's a silver lining, and again, you never wish injury on a guy like Blake Shapen or anyone. But, hey, at least you have Michael Van Buren. I don't think they have to go to the portal. You have him. He's played 8 conference games. I mentioned the road environments he's been in. You can go into spring and be more open where you're not starting with training wheels. This guy's he's rode his bike around the neighborhood a couple of times and some dangerous ones, like we mentioned. So he's going to have some.
He's no spring chicken anymore. He's been through
the spring.
Baptism by fire. The team.
Correct. So if there's a positive to this year, and I got to pull really deep in the bucket to find the positives. That would be the positive, is you go into the spring knowing who your signal caller is going to be heading into 2025. Got to bring some pieces defensively. Certainly, what's he going to do with Coleman Hutzler? I don't know, but that was the worst defensive personnel I've seen from a Mississippi State team probably since Sylvester Kroom. Maybe that was a very bad. RIP to Mike Leach. RIP. They did a bad job recruiting on that side of the football under that regime.
Cole, you want to give Ole Miss a tongue lashing? You ready for that?
No, I don't want to, because here's the problem.
Cole was about to blow a gasket Friday when that game was going on. I was kind of worried about it.
I bet his wife and dog on the game.
He had Rebs minus 26.
The problem is that you go back and you look at this Ole Miss season and you remind yourself that this was the year that they were going all in. This was the year they spent $10 million in the transfer portal to better their offensive line, to better their defensive line, to better their linebacking core, to get better players in the secondary, to elevate the passing attack. And there are glimpses in that game of why Ole Miss still could be one of the most dangerous threats in the college football playoff. With the run by Ulysses Bentley, the beautiful pass from Jackson Dart at the back of the end zone to Caden Priestcorn off his back foot. Some of the drives that where you're watching as number 2 is literally carrying Ole Miss to the finish line, refusing to go down, He becomes the all-time leading passer in Rebels history. And you say to yourself, that's a team that if I had to go up against for 60 minutes and I don't play A-plus football, I might be in trouble. I might be in a heap of trouble because their defense was able to corral in the second half after they gave out the first touchdown. They did a great job of minimalizing the run game. I think they held them to like 1.3 yards per play. They were great on third down conversions in the second half. And then you have to remind yourself, this is also a team that lost to Kentucky because of ill-advised plays and terrible pass coverage at times, to where when Michael Van Buren connected with Kevin Coleman and Kelly Akari on 2 35-yard passes, that's why you lost to Kentucky. It's the same team that lost on a 4th and 5 call to Garrett Nussmeier in Death Valley, and then in overtime to Kyron Lacey. That cost them a shot of no margin for error. It's the same reason why you watched as the ill-advised passes at times from Jackson Dart led to 2 interceptions in the final drive against Florida. And it's frustrating because they are the most Jekyll and Hyde team, from play calling to perfection to alignment to ill-advised throws. When they're good, they're lethal. They're scary. They can go toe-to-toe with anybody in the country. I have no doubt about that. Which, again, when I say you are what your record says you are is a load of crap, because if Auburn is not built like a 5-7 team, they're actually probably built more like an 8-4 team, but shot themselves in the foot too many times. But I also say you are what your record says you are because if you did this to yourself. Nobody can be at fault here. You can't say the committee is going to leave us out because of we lost. You lost to Kentucky. That's a bad loss. You lost when you had to get 1 conversion on 4th down in the swamp. It's not a good win. I mean, it's not a terrible loss, but it's not a good one. The thing is that the Florida game is actually looking better for you because the way that Florida closed out its season with Billy Napier, that feels like a top 25 team. The way they played down the stretch over their last 3 games, that felt like a top 25 roster in Gainesville. You can stomach that one. But it just felt like, again, when you have these opportunities and you're at a program like a Missouri, like an Ole Miss, like a Kentucky, like a South Carolina, you get one every 4 or 5 years. You can't afford to miss up. You can't afford to trip over yourself. And now we're going to talk about a team that doesn't belong in the playoff right now because they didn't do their job. They didn't. I'm not going to reward you and say, just because if you're dangerous means that you can go toe-to-toe with anybody. You didn't do your job. But man, they're a fun team. And it's going to be really, really sad as they walk off the field to wonder, what if? And the only what if they have to say is not what if we got our shot. What if we didn't shoot ourselves in the foot? Because you did so through 4 quarters of action. I think the Egg Bowl this year was a perfect representation of how Ole Miss's season was in 2024.
Yeah,
disappointing, underwhelming, yet
yeah.
still a lot to be thankful for.
It was just like the Kentucky game, except they won.
Yeah, underwhelming finish to an underwhelming season in Oxford. I think you put that beautifully, Cole. It was kind of a microcosm of their year, just the feeling of what could have been. We'll see what the committee thinks of them, but it definitely feels like it's going to be a what could have been year in Oxford. Guys, let's go to Nashville. We almost had dramatics. I thought Clark Lee and the boys were going to do it again. Vandy jumped out to that early lead. Dylan Sampson and Nico Iamaleava said not so fast, getting a 36-23 win. Vols lock up their spot in the college football playoff, a 10-2 season, 6-2 in conference play. Great job by Josh Heupel and the boys. And guys, I think you could still argue. I mean, I know Shane Beamer's got an argument and some others, but take nothing away from what Clark Lee and company did in Nashville this year. A bowl game, wins over Alabama, wins over Auburn. Special year for them, but Tennessee finishes it off, gets that 10th win, secures their spot in the college football playoff, and Doak Walker Award. How do you like them apples watching Dylan Sampson run wild all day?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was Tennessee's best game of the season. It's wild to say they were down 14-0 right off the bat, but it was quick. The opening kickoff, quick turnover. Vanderbilt scored. I think Vanderbilt was up 14-0 with 10 minutes left in the first. I mean, really, I'll say from the second quarter on, Tennessee controlled and dominated that game. Again, like I said, I think as the season went on,
outscored them 29-6 from the second quarter.
They dominated. That's what me and Cole's talking about the reaction. Like, they dominated them from the second quarter on. Again, we were kind of talking about what was Tennessee's most complete performance of the year.
That one.
Yeah, I would say from top to bottom. I mean, if they had one from start to finish, no, but I'll give you 75% of it. You dominated is really controlling the football game, obviously. I think that was their best game of the year. It's wild to say they got down 14-0. But just rotating 10 dudes, 10 guys having 100 snaps or more on the defensive line. It's unbelievable. They have really good depth. Very similar to like Texas. I would take Texas has a higher ceiling because of the offense. And I've seen Quinn Ewers play in really big games and environments like we saw last night and keep his cool and play well. We haven't seen that consistency yet with Nico. And to be fair, there's a big age gap. But I kind of put them in the same mold. The defenses, both defenses, and specifically here for Tennessee, are going to give them chances in every game, I think. I think it's going to give them a chance to win every game. See, I feel like I can't say that about a team like Alabama. Like, I think the floor sometimes can be really low on offense, but the defense, to be fair to them, they got ravaged by the portal when Nick retired. It just was unfortunate timing. They've had some injuries. I don't feel at all the same way about that defense, and it's improved as I do the Tennessee and Texas defense. Alabama's a little bend, don't break. They force a lot of turnovers. If you don't go turn the ball over against them, I think you can go put up some points against them. Tennessee and Texas are legit. Like, again, it's not how it was 10, 15 years ago where it's like, hey, we're really good. It's not the 2011 Alabama defense or 2011 LSU defense where it's like, we'll be on the field for three plays and we'll be sitting right back on the bench because we're going to get your ass off the field real fast. That's not the sport anymore. But I think Tennessee, Texas's defense this year are as close as that can be in today's modern college football with how spatial, how spread out these offenses are. And I think it starts up front with the defensive lines. But, yeah, I think Tennessee's most complete performance. You're right, Chris. They're in the college football playoff. The big question will be, will they be hosting a home game? Yeah. Imagine Ohio State traveling to Neyland for a first-round game.
Yeah, watch that go south really fast. Hey, Brandon Hall, $9.99. Thank you for giving us the super chat. You said, can we talk about how all you guys picked Tennessee to be the least likely team to play back from a big deficit if Vandy got up early? 14-0 in the first 5 minutes of play qualifies. Well, Brandon, since you gave us, $9.99, I'll let you have your 15 seconds of fame and call us out. I hadn't seen anything at that point from Tennessee's offense to believe that they could be able to mount a comeback, at least sustainably. Sorry, I hadn't. Here's what I will say. I was proven wrong. So there you go, Brandon. I apologize to you and Volunteer Country for being wrong that this team couldn't come back. They gave a complete and total performance. I thought the passing attack was fantastic. I thought the play calling and the design of Josh Heupel was fantastic in the second half. I thought the fact that you saw wide receivers not dropping easy passes was a big difference maker in this game. I think the fact that you added in Mike Matthews, probably the most underappreciated wide receiver recruit in the 2024 cycle, finally having an extensive role, nearly 2 touchdowns on the day, is why you need to get him more involved. I thought the explosive plays from Dante Thornton were on display. I thought the rushing attack did a great job. I think that you found out that you do have a quality number 2 guy in Deshaun Bishop. Hopefully, moving forward in the playoff, you utilize him more so you don't use the wear and tear on Dylan Sampson's legs throughout the college football postseason, because you're going to go on a 4-game run. And then you got to give a testament to this defense, which has been the backbone of this team all year with the bend, don't break mentality. You have a great front seven that is able to capitalize and put pressure on quarterbacks into making mistakes. You're able to go ahead and create your own turnovers. Watch as they were able to basically take away the biggest asset, Diego Pavia's legs, in the second half. I mean, like, when you do that, you can go toe-to-toe because your secondary is playing blanketed coverage. You were down 14-0. You had a bad fumble early on in the game. More importantly, you gave up the kickoff return. Besides that, it was an overall quality performance. And this is one to where when you look at and you say, what version of Tennessee can go deep on a postseason run? This one, where they're not making mental mistakes on the offensive line, where they're not making fundamental flaws in the open field on easy routes that probably should be caught. They're making great run designs. They do everything possible that they can put themselves in a great position to succeed. And their defense is not slowing down anytime soon. So I apologize if I thought this game was going to be down and out of the count. I really did see a scenario where they probably were going to make this a 4-quarter battle. They didn't. And now you have to sustain that success going into the playoff. But for me personally, and I'm an Alabama grad, so it pains me because if we're supposed to hate Tennessee, I don't hate Tennessee. I love Tennessee. I really do. I think the Volunteer Country are fine people. I think Ball's Twitter is a cesspool of mediocrity. But Knoxville, second favorite location in all of college football. There is nothing more I am excited to see than potentially a playoff game being hosted at Neyland Stadium. One of the greatest atmospheres in the sport. A place where that fan base has waited for years to get back to national relevancy. And Dave and I brought this up yesterday on the postgame show. I believe there is good things for college football when you have parity. I believe there are great things for college football where the teams that we want to talk about are actually delivering. Tennessee is one of those teams that I want to talk about in a prominent light. Tennessee being back at the forefront of conversations in college football is good for college football. And now hopefully they get to host a playoff game and everyone gets to see what is the majestic feel of a Saturday night at Neyland Stadium. Rocky Top rolling to the playoff.
Neyland Loud. By the way, Brandon Hall, another super chat, says I appreciate it as much as I hate to say it. Agree with you when you say
guy
it.
must be at Harris and must be having a lot of success.
Thank you to Brandon Hall. Appreciate you.
Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, B-Hall.
Let's go, Brandon Hall. Let's go. We got 2 other super chats too. We'll getting off this game and closing out. We'll highlight these. I'm sorry I didn't see them. We've been kind of on a roll, and so I appreciate each and every single one of you. Force Geek with the $5 super chat says, what does it do for y'all that Sellers didn't play in the second half of LSU? Do you have confidence the committee will look at that? Yeah, I think that's a bigger deal than maybe even the refs, is when you factor in. Yeah. I mean, a team didn't have their starting quarterback for half of the game and still almost won the game. So, I mean, they blew a 17-0 lead. I know we all agree, but any team goes without their starting quarterback in the second half, maybe outside of Texas. Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a toll. So, I mean, listen, I'd say this. If Florida State last year losing their starting quarterback was enough to keep them out, is a factor like that enough for the committee to go play maybe the hypothetical game and say, hypothetically, had they not lost Lenora Sellers, they'd be 10-2. I mean, we'll see. I don't know, but
it should be discussed. Yeah,
I'm sure it'll be discussed. So.
It's a conversation worth having. Here's the other conversation worth having. I have never trusted the College Football Playoff Committee to get it right. Why start now?
Yeah,
start now?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, they do get it back. I think they got it right last year. The 14.
Well, last year I think they did. Yeah,
I think they got it right. I think Bear thought Florida State should have been in.
No, I didn't think Florida State should have been in. I thought it was stupid as all hell to say that Georgia is a team that's at number 1, falling down to number 6.
It was almost like
they lost Alabama 12 hours before. You couldn't put them in.
It was almost like the committee, though. It was like the committee was careless, ranking 5 and 6. Like they're like, this doesn't matter.
But that's irrelevant to me because neither team makes the playoffs.
I know, but still, it's from the standpoint, Dave, of like you're just showing that like that's just a careless error. Like
it was a cop out to go ahead and give credit to Florida State. That's the problem. They didn't belong in even with an undefeated record. But what we're going to say is because of Georgia lost, that's what happened. Yeah. So how is Georgia at 6 after being at 1? It made no sense. I don't trust the committee to get it right. Because they're going to watch them on guarantee you, boys, watch them on Tuesday night. Put Miami in at number 12. Watch them do it.
By the way, Philly fan. He just says, wish I had more to donate. Want to say appreciate the content. Appreciate you, Philly fan. Thank you. EAG.
Unless he's a big fan of you, Chris. I don't know.
Maybe so. Guys, again, a few more games. We'll run through these really, really quickly. Let's see. Florida beats Florida State 31-11. Congratulations to Billy Napier and the boys. Domination. Some of the biggest dramatics of yesterday was the flag planting and some of the fights that broke out. I think, Cole, you put it beautifully. They run for 235 yards. Big story here, though. I don't think anybody was surprised. You beat your rival. Florida State finishes their season 2-10, complete mess. But the Gators down the stretch became one of the best stories in college football, playing like a top 25 team. And Billy Napier, to say that he is safe. I mean, guys, 7-5. Any of us over the summer would have said that had been a massive success, and that maybe Billy Napier should win Coach of the Year if they won 7 games that schedule. They did it. Congratulations to all the great Gators, man. A huge win down there in Tallahassee.
Yeah, that was more in my recent memory, maybe in my lifetime, like a total turnaround in a season, like a total flipper. I mean, after the A&M game, he was just totally left for dead by everyone, including myself. But yeah, I mean, you just turn around, even like we mentioned last week, even in losses to Tennessee and even Georgia, like you thought they played well. I thought Billy called one of his better games against Georgia, just with his third-string quarterback. But no, give them their flowers. They'll be going to a bowl game, and they're going to have to go build off kind of that core nucleus of the freshmen and sophomores this class. And they certainly could. But to Cole, we're talking to Miami a little bit. We keep talking. People are like, well, Florida's Miami's best win. Miami probably look you in the eye a little bit and be like, Yeah, ask Ole Miss how that went against Ole Miss and LSU, how that went against Florida.
Yeah.
But that's where we in college football. Again, I don't have the right answer. I'm asking y'all, where do we start separating how teams look week one when you have a Graham Mertz team, and then you look at them now? Again, I don't know if there's a right.
Well, and that's why the whole automatic. That's why, to my opinion, the whole automatic qualifier thing is crazy.
Is dumb.
I do think the 12 best teams changes from week 1 to week 14. Week 1, it's more so who are the best 12 in our minds. We don't know. We don't have the answer. By week 14, guys, we've seen 14 weeks. Like we should be able to write it down and say these are the 12 best teams in the country. Like they have proven it the way they've played all year. So, this Florida team is vastly different than what it was in week 1. South Carolina.
Yeah, totally different quarterback.
South Carolina, who almost lost to Old Dominion, is vastly different than they were in week 1. So, that has to play a factor to your point.
I won't spend a lot of time on this. I'll do 2 things. Number 1, much like I said about Lenore's sellers, your selling point at Florida is high. That's who our quarterback. That's who our quarterback is. I saw a tweet last night saying DJ Lagway embracing all the love for his success this season, and then it was a quote tweet. Florida's number 1 recruiter. Spot the lie. That's a way, and you're watching as more kids are flipping on over, and that's going to be a big deal.
Hair in recruiting.
They're going to
crazy.
They're going to finish, I think, with the top 15 class, and not a top 10 class. They're going to land a top 15 portal class. They're going to be right back in the running next year if they can continue to build the success. And there have to be some addendums added in, but you got to feel good about the way they are.
Before you get there, should we cool it on Billy Napier going into 2025 talking about his job? Should that not be like a lead?
No, I'm with Bear on that too. Yeah, I'm with Cole. No, I think he's on a hot seat too. Now, is it cooler than it was going into this year? Yeah, but I'm with Cole. I'd agree.
I will say he is on a warm seat, not a hot seat. Number 2, there's a lot of people who are frustrated with the flag planting. There's a lot of people who are annoyed with how in rivalry weekend, 2 fan bases that can't stomach each other, 2 fan bases that are willing to go to war over a game that has nothing to do with their life, nothing to do with anything going on in their vicinity. Just it brings them joy. You have 3 hours to defend your home turf against an opponent. If you can't show up to the party, they own that place at that point. Firmly plant the flag and sit down and shut up. Sorry.
I love
it is field turf. You plant it.
I don't know. Did y'all see South Carolina planted the field on the Tiger Ball?
Yeah. You had 3 hours.
You know what I loved?
Didn't Texas run back out after A&M left?
They ran back and take a team photo and start cut it out.
Because I was still in the stadium and I saw him I was like, Sark just prevented World War III at Kyle
He
Field.
100% just prevented World War III.
Because I was waiting. I had my phone. I was like, if they plant the flag, this could get ugly. But good on Sark, good on Texas, bigger than that, whatever.
You have 3 hours to defend your turf. You didn't do your job, Florida State, you didn't do all year long.
I will say to that point, we came in a rivalry weekend, like the portal. Do guys care as much? I loved seeing it. I was like, we still have hatred in college football. I love this. Like,
oh, by the way, do you guys remember last year when they cut up the turf in Gainesville, like Florida State? Oh, and you plant a flag. You plant a flag. Okay.
What's more disrespectful, planting a flag or what Miami did when they beat them week 1 and they're going over the recruiting section being like, don't come here. Come to Miami. I love to see the hatred is still there.
One of them.
The hatred's still in college football. I love to see that.
All right, we got one more game.
Guys, we got to go to Como. I'm going to start here. Missouri folks, I am sorry for doubting you the way I have over the last
Rambo.
I picked Mississippi State to beat MIZZOU. I was dead wrong. I picked Arkansas to beat MIZZOU. I was dead wrong. There's been a lot of folks in Como, the fine folks of Como, by the way, that have taken a real issue with my power rankings that I drop every Monday. Here's the good news. You're going to move up. You're going to move up the power rankings. I give you a lot of credit, MIZZOU. So from yours truly, I promise, a pick's a pick. It's never
welcome
personal.
to the bandwagon, brother. We'll give you your T-shirt.
Listen, a pick's a pick. It's never personal, never was. There's people out there that think I've got some personal vendetta against MIZZOU. I don't. I love the fine folks at Columbia, Missouri. I can't wait to hopefully I'm able to come to Columbia, Missouri, and there be open arms and there be embrace. This is my formal apology to you. I apologize, and I'm happy for you. A 9-3 season in the books. It's a great season in Como. Even though you missed the playoff, still a solid season. And you own the Arkansas Razorbacks. So congratulations. And again, I am sorry for doubting you. The end.
Talon Green couldn't get it done, man.
Talon.
No, I mean, it was just a snow-filled game. I sent y'all the picture. Bowen sent me.
SEC weather, baby. SEC
weather.
It's
SEC weather. I'd love to see Ohio State come into Fro Field in that snow and play there. We saw how it went against Missouri last year in the Cotton Bowl, and that was indoors. Imagine what they do to them outside.
Let's go.
No, yeah, Cole running the flag out there, the MIZZOU flag. But no, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I had this one on the second TV, so I locked in more in the fourth quarter. I'll be honest with you. I'm not gonna lie and pretend like I saw a lot of the third quarter, but it felt like a big snowball. I mean, who needed that game more? I don't know. I guess Missouri probably. I mean, because I think Arkansas is kind of 6-6, 7-5, whatever. They would have loved for Pittman to beat Missouri because I know Pittman hates drink just like a lot of the coaches. But I don't know. It feels like Missouri a little bit. There's a couple of games this year they found ways to win. Vandy, Arkansas, I mean, they could be a 7-5 club this year. But a little bit had that South Carolina mentality to them outside of the South Carolina game that South Carolina won, where Missouri in some wins this year squeaked one out at the very end. Boston College being one. But no, I mean, I think 9-3 is a solid year. Again, I didn't have them in the playoffs. I think we all I think I had them 9-3. I think a lot of us had them 8-4, 9-3. I thought the schedule was beneficial. I mean, again, like we talked about, Brady Cook went out, but we talked about 2 weeks ago. What game would they have lost that they didn't win without him? You know, I mean, Oklahoma would have been the only one, but they won that with Drew Pine. So I think even if you have a healthy Brady Cook all year, maybe the Alabama game's closer. But I still think you get blown out at A&M. You lose to South Carolina, and then who am I missing there? Who's the other?
Alabama.
And I said that game would be closer with Brady Cook. So yeah, I mean their schedule went about his way. Is about what I thought it would. Again, I thought at some point I don't know, offense left a lot to be. That was probably the underwhelming thing in 2020. I thought the offense would click a little more with as much as they had coming back, coordinator coming back, Eli obviously there. But and people may be like, well, Brady Cook. It's like, well, I think you won every game. You still would have won without him. It just the defense. I mean, me and Cole talked about it on the previews. I think they were better than we thought they were overall, and I think it kind of helped them stay afloat 9-3 and get wins like Oklahoma. So I think a solid B+ year. I mean, it's called spade a spade. You go win your bowl game. That's back double-digit win seasons for Eli in Missouri.
I had them going 10-2. I had losses to Alabama and losses to South Carolina. So take out the Texas A&M game, called it as is. Thought that because of their offense would be more dynamic, they would sneak into the college football playoff, even with that lackadaisical schedule. I give a lot of credit to Brady Cook. He is the embodiment of what MIZZOU football is all about. Unequivocally, unafraid, unbashful in being the most authentic version of himself and reeling a team to victory. That 30-yard touchdown run was exactly what was needed for all of those out in Como. Give a lot of credit to Marcus Carroll. In a snow game, you need that physicality in between the trenches. He was able to pile drive it on in for multiple touchdowns. Finished his career with 2 tutties. You got to give it up for Nate Noel being able to be another guy that adds on in. Theo Wees, Luther Burden, Brent Norfleet, Marquise Johnson. The defense, I think, has been one of the more underlying things all year. We have not given enough credit to how well this defense has played without Blake Baker as the play caller. It's a year that I think MIZZOU fans will think is underwhelming because they know that they probably had a shot with so much veteran talent coming back to go to a college football playoff. But they're 9-3, and for my money, with how they were able to come back against Auburn, with how they were able to play a physical brand of football down to the wire against South Carolina, with how they played yesterday against Arkansas, they're going to be ranked inside the top 25. And at the end of the day, I think that when you're a 9-3 team and you still show that there was grit, determination, and no quit inside of you, there's a lot to hold your hat on. MIZZOU is not known in the SEC as being a team that is consistently finding itself at 10-2 or 9-3. They're 7-5, they're 6-6, they're 5-7. I think they got the right coach. I think they have the right personnel. I think they're going in the right direction. I know because of that state has the NIL collective boding well in their favor. They're going to spend. They will. They're going to be right back in this running next year. The only problem is that now they're going to have to replace some key elements that probably you will never see step foot inside of Memorial Stadium at that level again. You're never going to get, I think, a Luther Burden-esque player. And I think that's the frustrating part, is that you could still land premier talent. And I believe in my Tigers. My Tigers are going to be back next year. Don't doubt it. Now will I be a
Who
bandwagon?
isn't going to be back next year? I think you got all 16 teams in the SEC in the playoffs next year.
Yeah, I don't have Kentucky, so we do have one out. We also don't have Auburn in the playoff right now. So that's 14.
You got 14 and hitting on the bubble.
I mean, listen, why not? 14 is, I think, good enough. But still, they can be in the running. They have a good, I think, foundation. And I know that Drink's an asshole, but you know what? He's Mizzou's asshole. And I don't think that anybody would trade him for the skins of the world. I think that they appreciate who he is and they appreciate what he brings.
I thought it was a culture year for Mizzou.
Yeah.
I thought at times, the way they lost at A&M, the way they lost at Bama, even the South Carolina game, there were times where I think it could have went, to Dave's point, it could have kind of went sideways, and it could have been an even more disappointing year, like a 7-win season versus a 9-win season. I give Drink and them a lot of credit for, even in a year that's deemed disappointing, they made the most out of it. And a lot of that was because, again, they stayed the course. And I think it was a high character year. It was a culture year. It was a year in which that was what kind of stood out to me, was that, Mizzou was able to, through everything, through all the disappointment, still have a pretty good year. That to me was what stuck out. So.
To me, this next year roster, you'll see how Drink really is in the modern age, how he can build a roster. I feel like that's yet still to be determined. Here's
another thing that I also just wanted to, and we can end on this. Kirby Moore is going to get some opportunities to look elsewhere for jobs. Is he going to be able to be back next year? Are they going to afford him? Corey Batoon, I think, did such a good job replacing Blake Baker. Is he in the running for a prominent position elsewhere? There's going to be a lot of things that even in a lost year, you'll see what type of culture and talent that Mizzou had because of their assistants, their personnel, their people that really kind of set the tone, will be in the running for multiple jobs elsewhere. And if so, that's a really big deal. I will not be shocked to see Kirby Moore Kirby Moore get the job back at Fresno State as the new head coach. I won't be shocked to see Corey Batoon get a couple phone calls around the SEC for a bigger opportunity.
Guys, Death Valley last night, LSU beats Oklahoma 37-17. The one thing from that game, because obviously, again, I was at the A&M Texas game, and so that was going on simultaneously. The one play I saw was the trick play, reverse, try to throw it. Yeah, just a microcosm of Oklahoma's season. Really just kind of summarized the frustrations.
Oh, the Bauer Sharp play. Dear God.
Bauer Sharp play.
Yes, dear God.
Yes. It was a pitch attempt up over the circus. Oklahoma finishes 6-6. LSU gets to 8-4. Garrett Nussmeier, 3 touchdown passes. You got the best version, or a good version, of Garrett Nussmeier.
He went out for a bit.
Yeah, how about Chris Hilton with 2 touchdown catches? They've been kind of waiting on him to pop off. Had a big night.
Only game 12. Welcome, Chris.
Yeah, welcome.
We'll see you in December in Florida and Tampa.
Yeah. So, guys, thoughts on this one? Again, LSU gets the 20-point win over the Sooners.
Yeah, it kind of felt like Oklahoma just let everything out after last week. It was kind of like, senior day, man. We got 6 wins. Like, it doesn't have to. If they would have lost last week in the way they played last night, yeah, you're right, Chris. I think Venables and Hugh Freeze, you'd be splitting hairs 1A, 1B, who the hottest seed is. I think with Brent getting the 6 last week's big win against Alabama, I mean, it wasn't a great performance from Oklahoma last night, but I think most of us thought it would. I mean, what are they going to bounce back on the road? I think LSU was a little more hungry, needed that 8th win. I mean, overall, it wasn't an awesome performance. Nussmeier went out a little bit. And then you already got Brian Kelly saying they're going to win the national championship next year at the post-game press conference. So he's drinking some of that Kohler Bear.
Did he say that?
Yeah. We'll see you in the national championship.
I need a quote, Dave. What did he say?
There it is. I got it for you right
How
now.
does he? Oh, of course he has to say that. It's year 4. He said, judge you in year 3.
He says, we're taking receipts and we'll see you at the national championship game.
Come on.
Okay. No. He said
even LSU people are killing him. Like, dude,
God.
You come out and say that. I think this is where he gets lost in the sauce at LSU. Where like he underestimated the job and the politics of it being the only big university. Really, love you, Tulane, but like the only big university that they care about in that state, because most of Tulane's alums are Northeasterners. But anyways, in the state that care, the Blake Ruffinos of the world, the Jordy Coladas of the world, all T-Bob, Moscata, and them. Like, dude, you say that they're very well covered, Brian. Like, you say that I see people tweeting like, okay, you say that, we're gonna hold you up to that. It's year 4. You can't just throw loose words around, and it's kind of cheesy because we all know how tough this league is week to week. We see it's like you can't come out and I don't know. Not that he can't. He's his own man. It's America. He can say whatever the hell he wants to say. I'm just kind of like
have a feel. Have a feel. It's just have a feel.
Have some awareness. It's like, dude, it's almost like you have some insecurities about how you mismanaged the portal this past year. So you're going to be like, no. We're going to go spend a lot of money and we're going to go win a national championship through the portal. It's like, dude, LSU is not a place you go win a national championship through the portal, dude. No. There's so much talent in that state. It should be built homegrown. He's messed it up. I do think they'll be, I think they'll be in the same range next year, 8-4, 9-3. They're never going to be bad under Brian Kelly. I just don't know if Brian Kelly's a championship coach.
I think the big thing that I have to take away is, number one, you said judge you in year 3. Okay, well, we're judging. Here's what happened. Number 2, now you have that. They're going to remember that. So now you got to go to the national championship. Now you got to do it. I mean, I have no problem if you want to go ahead and say that. None whatsoever. But now you got to live up to those expectations. Number 2, I don't know if that's going to be Garrett Nussmeier's last game out in Baton Rouge. The version of Garrett Nussmeier when he is hot still can be one of the best quarterbacks in college football, if not the best quarterback in the SEC. The problem is that he is very Jekyll and Hyde. Turnovers at bad times and ill-advised throws into double coverage that maybe should be picked off that aren't. Bad fumbles, bad sacks. It's very annoying because I know what the potential is. I also think that if he wants to come back next year, last night's game kind of proved that you can win with Garrett Nussmeier. It was, and the fact that he told Brian Kelly, I'm effing throwing the football, I'm coming back in, broken collarbone potentially and all. I don't care. I'm going out there and slinging the rock. Watch me do it the way that I do. Now with Bryce Underwood gone, I think that there has to be that legit conversation of if he wants to come back, do you put him back in? Also, can you continue to build this relationship? Because I brought this up. Chris Hilton, that's a dude that I absolutely think can be a difference maker. I think that when you have Xavier Thomas, he can be a difference maker. I think when you have a CJ Daniels, I think he has another year of eligibility. He can still be a factor in. LSU is still LSU. They can go recruit wide receivers and go bring in transfer portal wide receivers. You're going to have to build the offensive line. Losing guys like Emory Jones and Will Campbell is going to be a big deal breaker. But I still think that you saw the glimpses of last night, why there were many people who believe that LSU was a force in 2024. There's a reason to believe that. That has nothing to deal with Oklahoma. Oklahoma has its own problems. They'll fix it. They'll fix it. Joe Castiglione is not going to sit here and go, no, we're okay with just being mediocre in the SEC. He's not going to. They will open up the checkbooks. But I think that you saw more so last night, the frustrations with the Alabama game, the frustrations with the game against USC, the frustrations at times against Nichols early on, the inability to get that win against Florida on the road because of there was so much to like about LSU and yet so much that we can pinpoint and pick at with LSU.
You don't know if LSU would have beat Florida during the SEC championship game this week?
Yep, they would have been in the SEC championship game. And here's the crazy part. They would have been the 1-9-3 team that we would have the conversation on right now. That would be the one, much like it would when it came down to Texas A&M. Because again, Aaron Anderson, big kickoff return, 100 yards. Gotta like that. You gotta like what you saw from Kyron Lacey, big time catch. You gotta like what you saw from Chris Hilton. Defense, hit and miss. Again, there was some really.
That was always going to hold LSU back this year. Just the defensive personnel. It has nothing to do with coaching. I think they hired the right guys in there. It's just you're so limited on how Frank Wilson and Brian Kelly messed up that roster the first 2 years.
Signature win. 2 incredibly risky, but also great throws by Nussmeier, ice in his veins against Ole Miss. I mean, that's the frustrating part when it comes to LSU.
What do y'all give this season? C?
C.
Yeah,
C.
Yeah.
Because you can't lose to USC in the opener, and then you can't lose to Florida.
Yeah, the season opening loss is the one. I mean, there's many frustrating losses, but that one just Kelly and LSU season openers is just bad.
In year 3, this Alabama team that we could all agree is pretty above average for their own standard came into your house and just totally skull dragged you.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, another bad loss.
And by the way, it wasn't just your defense. Your offense couldn't put up points. Like, that was another big time deal. And then the fact that afterwards in the post game, you say, our guys didn't quit. Cool. You didn't quit. You were down by 40.
Hey, they open up at Clemson next year, man. Does the streak go to 6 straight opening losses?
Yeah, looking way too far ahead. I don't know how you can pick LSU in a season opener. Like, it just at this point, it's just like
watch me be the dumbass that does it. Just
I'll probably be right there with you, but I'm just saying it just feels I don't know. It's almost at some point like fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. They fooled us a couple of times. Guys, in closing, Kentucky loses to Louisville 41-14. I have nothing to say about this game. It is basketball season in the Bluegrass.
Has anyone seen Kentucky's team bus just rolling around Oxford, Mississippi anywhere? Another dimension. Like they never. Chris, did you see them a couple of weeks ago when you went to Oxford?
I can't say that I ran into them, but
I don't think they ever showed back up to Lexington. I mean, the poor professors at Kentucky are probably, God, I mean, this guy's going to fail the semester due to lack of attendance. He never came back.
Yeah, that's again. There's not a lot to say. I mean, it's basketball season in Kentucky. It is.
We got drugged on social media for all picking Louisville to win.
I did notice that. Yeah, we did.
And everyone's like, it doesn't matter if we're 2-9 or if we're 3-8 or we're gonna. This was never gonna be a team that you were beaten ever with this roster.
With Cutter Boley at quarterback.
I'll give you credit. I think that this is the year. If you are Mark Stoops, you have to decide: do I want to come back? And if I do, how do I build around Cutter Boley? Because I'm tired of doing the transfer portal shit. Like, just let it be with this kid. There's a lot of things to like about him. I think that he can grow into a decent passer. But my God, stop at the transfer portal. It didn't work with Devin Leary. It worked 1 year with Will Levis. It worked partially in 2 games for Brock Vandergriff. Just stick with Cutter Boley and figure it out from there.
Anything else, Dave? Mark Pope, baby.
No,
they're rolling. Cats are rolling, baby. Cats are rolling on the hardwood. So, guys, that's going to do all for us. Week 14, the regular season, officially in the books. Guys, let me say this. It was an absolute – and, of course, we're not going anywhere, but I want to say it was an absolute blast to do this with you guys every single Sunday morning throughout the regular season, breaking everything down. Of course, guys, Sunday Funday will continue in a little bit of a different capacity when we get into bowl season, playoffs, et cetera. Of course, next Sunday, we're going to go live and react to the college football playoff. Who are the 12 teams? You know that's going to be pure madness, a complete shit show. So that'll be a lot of fun. Make sure you join us for that. But fellas, it was a hell of a regular season, man. I 128 games previewed, 14 of these Sunday Fun Days, and maybe actually even 15 because I think we went live obviously the first
we went
Sunday
before any game was even played.
Before any game was played. So really good stuff, man. I couldn't have done it without you guys, and it was a blast, man, truly. So thank you all for y'all's hard work, and thank you all for tuning in all season long. Your love sport. There's over 1,300 of you tuned in live right now, so we can't say thank you enough for that, for you guys being here. You guys are what make this what it is, and again, we wouldn't be what we're doing, what we are, and where we're going without each and every single one of you, your love and your support. So again, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications, check us out via podcast wherever you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. And again, stay tuned. More content coming your way this week. We'll be breaking down the SEC championship. We've got signing day this week as well. And college basketball season continues to roll on. Everything else in between. You already know the drill with us. For Dave Shumate and Cole Thompson, I'm Chris Phillips. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, and we will catch you on the other side.